Hey, John here. Here's lick of the day number 40. This is an Intervallic hybrid picking run in E minor. As usual, you can find a link to the tab in the description below or by clicking here on the screen. And also, as usual, I'm going to play it slow once and then break it down. We start here on the 16th fret of the G string. Alright, so when I say intervallic in any of these licks, it mainly means that it's going to be bigger intervals, because intervallic could mean any interval, but when you see that in any of these licks, that's what I have in mind, so bigger intervals. And bigger intervals are most easily played with some form of hybrid picking, because it's as, you know, easy to jump from the, say, B to the E string as from the E string to the E string in terms of the right hand. Not exactly the same, but pretty much. So it's way easier to get away with bigger jumps than with your regular picking technique. So if you're not used to hybrid picking yet, I think this one can be a good one to work on, because it's fairly easy to make repeating patterns, and repeating patterns is ideal, especially smaller repeating patterns, if you want to, you know, get better at a specific technique. So the more reps you can get in, the better off you will be. All right, so this lick is based on this intervallic pattern where we have two notes on the G string. That's going to be the closest one together. So we have one note, the fifth in this case, of the key of E minor. And then we go up to the flat sixth with a hammer on. And then we're going to jump up here to the high E string, to the octave of the first note. So it's basically note, then scale note above, and then the octave version of the first note we played. And then we repeat that in just by going down the scale. So we start on B here, then we go down to A. I'm just following the scale here, so I get A, B, A, then I get G, A, G, and then we get F sharp, G, and F sharp. E, F sharp, E, D, E, D, and C, E, C, C, D, C, and finally we get B, C, B. And that means we've gone down the entire scale, so, and then I go down, I slide up to the 8th fret from here, and then descend with only left hand legato. So I don't pick anything here, it's just hammer-ons from nowhere. So that's the basic idea here. And for the picking, I'm playing it down, hammer, and then the M finger. And that's the picking for the whole thing basically, because once we get here, I just slide and then go down. And of course you can always pick as well if you want, but the way that I played it in the fast version, that's what I did. So like I mentioned in the beginning, this is a really good one to work on if you're new to hybrid picking as well. If you're very new to hybrid picking, you should check out my hybrid picking basics video, which I believe I have here on my YouTube. But after that, this one is just as useful, I think, because it's a very small pattern. It's 3 notes. And it's quite comfortable as well, because you actually have, depending on the hand size, of course, but going to the very next string can feel cramped for some people, but usually if you have one string in between, like we do here, between G and D, G and E, it feels more natural. But basically, you just want to repeat that, and even going between 2. It's a really good way to practice as well. And in this case, you actually get you have some time here before you have to hit the hybrid pick note, but then you have to go straight back to picked note. So So you can basically just improvise going up and down the string if you want as well. But as far as a hybrid picking exercise, just pick one pattern and then repeat that a lot of times, but do it at a pace where you can keep the dynamics of the notes the same. So you don't want to hear like a really strong picked sound here, a weak hammered sound, and maybe a very strong pluck here. Instead, try to keep the dynamic the same as you would get for the same dynamic as you have with the hammered notes. So. Another really good thing when you have a repeating pattern like this is to practice it first as what fits the pattern the best. So in this case, triplets, we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But then try doing it in groups of 4 instead. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So what happens is that the accent is going to move because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it takes you a few repetitions before you're back on the beat on the first note. So I have the beat here, 3, 4. But you can do that as slow as you want because that effect is there anyway, as long as you make sure that your foot is on the 1 the entire time. So if you start doing this very slowly, just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, like this, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then as you speed up, you can lose the counting after a while and just get the feel of this accent moving around the pattern. So that's a really good way to find any type of unevenness rhythmically or dynamically as well, because when the accent moves from note to note, you're going to get what I call a spotlight effect on that note. So that note is going to stick out more. But if you only play it as triplets, this note will always stick out more, and you might not notice that you're rushing this hammered note, for example. So that's why applying this sort of opposite side of the spectrum type subdivisions to whatever pattern you're playing. So in this case, it was an uneven number of notes, so odd number. Then we applied an even number, and then you get this moving accent thing. If it was an even numbered sequence, you could apply an odd number instead and get the same type of effect. And this, like, millions of combinations you can do in this way. But it really helps your overall technique and timing. And also it makes it more fun to practice things, because you can practice something that you might feel comfortable with, but then you add this extra layer of difficulty, and then all of a sudden the thing that you were comfortable with becomes something that you can actually improve your technique with quite a lot, even though it's basically the same thing. All right, that's it for this one. If you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed it, and see you in the next one.